Pokebabs!
Hello and welcome back to Pokebabs. Today we will be looking at round 2 of the Pokebeach June tournament. We're going up against xpfcwintergreen, and typings were kind of interesting there. Be interested to see what kind of deck we're going up against. Again, we're playing that Ho-Oh M-Manectric deck. And we're going to start a Manectric. So we did lose the coin flip, which unfortunately means we're going second. And we see a Regice, which is kind of one of those things that I'm a little scared about with the deck. That was one of the main reasons why there's the inclusion of that Zapdos. So hopefully they don't throw a Fighting Fury Belt on there. That makes it really difficult. They got to force Giant Plants down, which makes me think could be with Vilpume. A Vilpume Regice. It's a possibility. The DCE going down, not what we wanted to see. And they're grabbing a Shaman off the Ultra Ball. And there's another Forest and an End. So still kind of hard to tell what we're going up against. But Forest of Giant Plants means something grass that's going to be evolving. And we see a Trainer's Mail after the setup. And there's a level ball, so this will probably show us what we're doing, what we're going up against here. And we see an Oddish, so yep, it's going to be a Regice Vilpume. A similar deck actually did really well at the Seattle Regionals. That was expanded, but it was similar. It was Regice Vilpume, and it had a Jolteon. Can't remember what else was in there, but it did get top 8, so it definitely can be a strong deck. We see AZ in the discard. We see a Fan Club, which is kind of surprising. If they only play one AZ, then that's kind of nice for us. We can maybe look to Lysander up a Vilpume at some point. And there's another Ultra Ball, so my opponent really getting a pretty good start. And we see a Lightning Energy, so off the discard of the Ultra Ball, so I would guess that there probably is a Jolteon in the deck. We see Vilpume. And if they don't put down a Float Stone, then they have a Lysander target. Yep, and so we'll be keeping an eye out for that. Starting with the Skyla is nice, and also starting with the Mega Manectric is pretty good. Or with the Manectric, and we're going to see me go for maybe a Skyla. Yep. Nope. Playing against these kinds of decks, you really have to be pretty calculated about what you want to do, because it is so easy to, like, one misplay really can be the difference. Skyla is really strong in this situation though, because there's so many options for me to grab. It looks like I'm eyeing the Zoroark, and I think that's just because once they get off that Resistance Blizzard, since I don't have any non-EX attackers out, I'm in a tough spot. So we're going to just use an Overrun, and we'll hit that Vilpume. Mostly because the Shaman, if we put damage on the Shaman, if we Lysander it later, we're probably just going to knock it out in one hit anyway, so I'm not so concerned about putting damage on it. Whereas maybe we can whittle away at that Vilpume. So we do see the Water Energy attachment, which means we will be seeing a Resistance Blizzard most likely. We get the Zoroark back, which is huge. And we're definitely going to be using that to get rid of that double colorless energy on the Regice. And so that's definitely going down there. And now the question is, do we play the Rough Seas or not? Healing ourselves is really good. Letting our opponent heal, not so good. So it's sort of a tough decision. They already have the Vilpume down, so the Force doesn't really help them so much. So I can kind of see, I mean, either way, it makes sense, but I think with the hope that they miss the Resistance Blizzard, it's kind of risky to put down the Rough Seas. But at the same time, I mean, I only have 100 HP left. So 2 Resistance Blizzards would knock me out. So it's nice to just avoid that. Here I can Assault Laser or I can Overrun. Opting for the Overrun just because that Vilpume is really messing things up. And we knew that we would see a Rough Seas there. And my opponent is considering what to do after the Rough Seas. Yeah, the unfortunate thing about the Rough Seas is that it does help my opponent as well. But I think it's going to be probably more helpful to me. We see the water attachment, which is good. That means that we won't be seeing Resistance Blizzard. There's a Miltank coming down, which they can use that Powerful Friends attack to do 80 damage. And we see a Heads on the Paralysis for Ice Beam. So that is not what we wanted to see. I'm just going to Sycamore because don't really want to bench any of those other Pokemon. And if we get a Mega Manectric, we can Mega Evolve out of this and we whiff it. Have an energy in hand, not much use in attaching it. And this hand is actually atrocious. We've got 3 VS Seekers and a Sycamore. I mean, at least we do have draw support. We see the DCE coming down, which is also not what we wanted to see because now they can Resistance Blizzard again. And we're just going to Rough Seas. We draw a Mega Turbo, which is very much so not helpful. The only thing we can do to damage the Regice is Overrun. So opting not to play a supporter here, just because if we can get rid of the Vilpume, then the VS Seekers become really important. But obviously we're not in a good spot with only 90 HP left. That's 2 Resistance Blizzards, even with Rough Seas out. My opponent is being pretty methodical here, thinking through how can they make sure that we don't do anything. Now the good thing is obviously that the Vilpume locks their items as well. So now we're up to 150 HP. We will Rough Seas, and now we're forced to play the Sycamore because otherwise we just lose. We just outright lose. So we're going to play the Sycamore, get rid of all those items. And we do draw a Mega Manectric and a Manectric, so we will be able to survive a little bit longer. I think it would make sense to, well, the other option is to put it on the bench Manectric, but Shaman would help us draw cards. We could put down a couple Pokemon here and then draw with Shaman. We do need to start hitting some other things. We really need that Zapdos in this matchup so badly. Or even just Lysander is helpful. So we do Mega Evolve on the active, giving us that extra HP, 40 more HP. And most likely we're going to see another Resistance Blizzard, since my opponent can see from, at this point, doesn't see that we have anything to get to combat it. Now the nice thing is we can retreat out and keep Rough Seas, but we can heal for a while we're stalling to try and figure out ways around this. So we will retreat into the Manectric. And the question is it worth going for a setup? And at this point I think energy is important, finding the Zapdos is important. And even though the Ho is pretty close to being basically a free 2 prizes with the Resistance Blizzard, I think if we can get out the Zapdos, it's worth it. So we bench the Ho-Oh, and we're going to set up for 3 more cards, throwing up to 6. We get a bunch of energy. And we get an N, though, which is nice. Do we attach before we play the N? So I attach to the Ho-Oh just because that way we can retreat out if it gets Lysandered. And also it's nice because the fire will be able to heal after we get attacked if it gets Lysandered out. And we draw into a Lysander of our own, which is really nice. Also a Mega Manectric. But we're going to just go for the Overrun, hitting that Vilpume back there. Now I think the plan of attack here is going to be Lysander the Vilpume, and then like I said, since my opponent played down the 1AZ or already discarded an AZ, it feels like it's possible they might not play anymore. And VS Seeker's pretty useless. So just by Lysandering that, we can then overrun a lot, and we can knock out the non water and lightning type Pokemon. So we've got that Shaman, and then also we're slowly whittling down the Vilpume so that we don't have to worry about the item lock anymore. So I'm considering retreating, because then we could power something up with a Turbo Bolt. And again, seeing what my opponent's got there. I think the Lysander has to be the play. Question is, where do you put it? But I think that it only makes sense to go for the Vilpume. Everything else can either attack or retreat for 1 energy. And so now we're just going to overrun and contemplating who to hit. The Rough Seas is down, so hitting the Regice or the Jolteon is completely useless. So we're going to go after the Miltank, actually. Again, this is because I know that once I get items back, I can get a VS Seeker for a Lysander onto the Shaman. So that's 2 prizes, and hitting it with just hitting it for 20 each turn doesn't seem as helpful. We see a double colorless going on to the Jolteon and an N, which kind of helps us. We had a hand with 5 items. So now we have a Hoopa. We got another energy, which is useful, and the Shaman, which might be useful. Opponent puts down the Force of Giant Plants, which is good because now we can start hitting the Regice on the bench with the overrun. And again, the question is, do I attach the energy? I think it might be better not to attach the energy. That way, if either Ho or Shaman gets Lysandered up, if it doesn't get knocked out, then we will be able to retreat. So just gonna go for the overrun. And it's nice because now my opponent only has 10 HP left on that Vilpume, so we have 1 more hit, so we can get 20 more spread damage down. So what is my opponent going to do? They just pass the turn, which now puts me in a weird situation, because I'm wondering, do I even want to knock out the Vilpume, or do I just want to stall? Could attach an energy, choose to just stall, because if my opponent doesn't have a way of picking up this Vilpume, the game, they're going to deck out before us. They've got the 1 card extra, and I think they've already played at least 2 N, which I would be surprised to see much more than that. So we just pass, they pass, and we pass back to them, and they pass back to us. So I don't want to play the energy from my hand, because if they play N, then it's 1 more card out of their hand, or out of their deck, essentially. And I don't do that. I don't want to put cards down so that I deck out first, so I'm just going to stall out here, and hoping that my opponent just doesn't have anything. The only concern is that they do keep drawing, and they're not just scooping, so I'm not sure what they could have. Again, obviously, if they had an AZ, if they played Hex on themselves, maybe they could attach energy to the active as an option. I think if they attach energy, then I'm probably just gonna take the knockout instead of letting them retreat. And what is my opponent going to do here? Like I said, this is one of those matchups, though, where you have to really think through a lot. And my opponent's doing the same thing. He's thinking, is it worth... I mean, what's the right course of action? So we draw the Zapdos. It's a little late. I think I can still put it down, doing some counts. I think I could put it down, but attaching energy, then I get myself in trouble in terms of the prize, or in terms of the deck size exchange. So right now we're just gonna keep passing and hope my opponent doesn't have any way of getting out of that Vilpume. And they attach a, it looks like a rainbow energy, which actually knocks out the Vilpume, which that was the last thing I was expecting. I guess, I mean, so now they can actually attack, and right now Regice is the best option for them to attack with. Again, because I didn't put down that Zapdos. Now the good thing is, with the Vilpume gone, well, I was going to say we might be able to play items, but then we see the Revitalizer, the Forest Giant Plants is down, we see the Oddish, we see the Gloom. Do they have a Vilpume? This could swing the game hugely. They have a Vilpume. We see a Resistance Blizzard, and, well, now I'm kind of regretting not playing down that Zapdos. But we can still put it down. If we have energy in the discard, we can power it up with a Turbo Bolt. Unfortunately, no items. So I'm just going to check and see. We have one energy in the discard, but even one, well, when we retreat, then we'll get another lightning in the discard, and so then we'll be able to power up the Zapdos. So that seems like the best course of action right now. My opponent won't be able to play down a Fury Belt or anything like that, so I should be able to one-hit the Regice. Things do get a little dicey, though, if they switch into the Jolteon. If the Jolteon were able to knock me out, that would be really scary. Thankfully, it hits for 70 right now, which is still 10 shy of the knockout. So, unless they play something like a Giovanni Scheme, which I could see as being a possible inclusion, but unless they play something like a Giovanni Scheme, I think the M-Manectric is safe, and then the Zapdos will be an option to attack with. So we just see the Ice Beam, and my opponent flips heads on Paralysis again, which puts me in a terrible situation. Now, thankfully, we top deck the Hex Maniac, so I'll be able to play items. We're obviously going to be digging for a switch. If I haven't discarded it yet, I can't remember. And we get the switch, which is huge, because otherwise my opponent could come up with the Jolteon and then they'd be able to knock out my only evolved Pokemon with the Jolteon. So I'm kind of digging for some other stuff. I see an AZ, which is good. Rough Seas would have been nice. Can't remember how many I've used at this point, but and then the Max Elixir could be helpful. I mean, at this point, I'm not so concerned about trying to beat them on the... Well, the Lysander does give me the option to try and go for the deck out option again. But at this point, I'm thinking, okay, I got a chance to get my attackers going. Now I'm feeling confident enough that I might be able to actually take knockouts to win this game. I'm already up 2 prizes now. The Regice is gone, which was the scariest thing for me. The Jolteon is still there, which is problematic because of the damage on my M-Manectric, but 2 Turbo Bolts would be able to knock it out. I have the Lysander. We see a Lysander on the M-Manectric, which is the last thing I wanted to see. We see a Flash Ray taking the knockout. So now I don't have anything that can attack the Jolteon directly. We do have a Lysander. And I'm really split about what to do here. Could go into the Manectric and do the overrun strategy again. Could go into Zapdos, take 2 prizes on a Shaman. Might be the best option, although we would get hit with another Flash Ray most likely. Draw into another energy. We're going to heal the damage from the previous Raging Thunder, which is, again, that's part of the nice thing about this deck, is that when you attack with Raging Thunder, you can either put it on the Manectric and then Rough Seas, or you can put it on the Ho-Oh and then heal with the Purifying Fire. So the Lysander does seem like the right play. The question is where to put the Lysander. Do we go for the Vilpume? I mean, they didn't put down a Floatstone while they had the chance there, so again, I mean, it seemed like they might have not had another way out besides that rainbow energy they played. But we're going to have to see. I mean, it seems like the best option would be to go for the Vilpume. But it's really tough decisions to make here. And you can tell I just... Oh, man. I don't know what to do here. I'm counting cards now. How... My opponent comments it's a really long game, which... Yeah. I mean, they are playing a lock deck, and I'm playing a deck that can heal. I'm glad to see they're not frustrated by that, though. So I'm trying to figure out, now that I've played all these cards down, do I still have a chance to go for the deck out option if I go for the Lysander, or will I still lose? Lysander, I mean, I have to Lysander. So Lysander on Vilpume. There's a lot of options to attack. I could retreat into the M-Manectric, although I don't know, that doesn't seem great. I could power up the Ho-Oh. So Ho-Oh could be a good attacker too, because instead of doing the 20 damage like Overrun, it'll do 30 damage. And that way we can knock out the Vilpume and start hitting the bench. We see an AZ, which is really unfortunate. Now I'm checking to see how many AZ did they have. They've played 2 AZ, so yeah, I'm commenting how I did not see that coming. I mean, first the rainbow energy to get rid of the Vilpume, now an AZ. That's 2 AZ, so if I could get another Lysander. Now the nice thing is that the flash ray, so even though I am weak, unfortunately, with that Fighting Fairy Ball, I don't get knocked out. I have an AZ of my own. My opponent's like, Zapdos has a lightning weakness? Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you don't when you don't have a Pokemon that people see very often. They don't even know how it works. But that's part of the nice thing about Zapdos as well, is that opponents sometimes caught off guard. They know it's not really good, because if it was, then they'd see it more often. So but I think it's a lot better than people give credit for it. And this is the kind of deck where you can actually utilize it pretty well. Now the question is, do I retreat here? Just decide to pass, hoping to get that Mega Manectric. If I can get my other Mega Manectric out, then I have a chance in this game, I think. I really do think I have a chance if I can get the other Mega Manectric out. So now my opponent has 3 prizes. I have 4 left, and we get another Spirit Link, which is not helpful. The energy we can use to power up the Manectric, and or we could attack with the Elemental Feather. That would have been an option too. Maybe try and go for a knockout on... Okay, so we see the Lysander on the Shaman. That's going to take a knockout. And now we're in a really tough spot. My opponent's down to 1 prize. And we don't have an answer in sight. Sending up the Ho-Oh. Not much reason not to. The nice thing is that Purifying Fire will allow us to heal off most of the damage from that Flash Ray. So he's essentially only doing like 20 damage per turn. And we are going to Elemental Feather, and now I think going after the Shaman might be the only option we have. If we can knock out the Shaman and the active. And the other reason is I'm just trying to avoid any sort of weird shenanigans where they heal all of the damage from like the Miltank or the Vilpume or whatnot. So, but yeah, obviously not a good position, especially if I can't get that other Mega Manectric. And honestly, I didn't check my prizes very well to see if I have the Mega Manectric. So it's going to come down to the wire here. We draw a Max Elixir, which is, again, not helpful at all with Vilpume out. We will Purifying Fire, and I think we're just going to Elemental Feather again. Keep chipping away at that keep chipping away at the Shaman. So we can get the Shaman knocked out before we deck out, and then also if we have an N, then we can N. So, and then hopefully out of our prizes, we can get something useful maybe, and then that's where things kind of get going. So we either need the M-Manectric or the N. I think the N is what we actually want to have in the deck at this point for sure. Hopefully they're both there. My opponent also down to only 5 cards left in deck, so kind of interesting. So we get a Battle Compressor, not helpful. We're going to go for the Purifying Fire. And we're just going to Elemental Feather knockout that, or not knockout, but 30 more damage to the Shaman. And we see a third AZ. Are you kidding me? You've got to be kidding me. And I don't even know what to say. I think I was probably going to say that I think it's I think that's game. But that, oh my gosh, 3 AZ? We've never seen that in this kind of deck. I want to say I think that's game, but I'll see what the last card is in my deck. If it's an N, even if it's an N, the problem is that it's not a M-Manectric, so we won't be able to knock out the Jolteon, and we can't knock out the Shaman now because it's not on the field anymore. But maybe we can get the card we need out of the prizes if we can get an N next turn, and then if we get an N next turn, and then we knock out the Miltank and get a M-Manectric, it's a pretty outside chance. And we get the M-Manectric out of the deck, which is not what I needed, so I say that's game. And I'm opting to go first next game for sure, because with item lock, that is scary. So unfortunately, we do deck out. Just going to Purifying Fire. I'm not sure why. I think I'm just letting my opponent know, okay, yeah, it is game. And I'm also interested in seeing what's my other, what would I get off this prize? See if it would matter. A Manectric, so nothing really that useful. And my opponent can just pass for the win. He's actually going to Flash Ray. And then I'm decked out. So, unfortunately, like round 1 of the tournament, we are down in the first game. But also like round 1, we did come back. So maybe there's a chance of a comeback. And we'll see what Wintergreen, xpfcwintergreen can do this time. The nice thing is we do know what it's sort of coming our way. And so going first, we can probably, hopefully can get a setup, maybe get some energy on the field, maybe get the Zapdos out, get ourselves in a position to get a M-Manectric pretty early on. Yeah, and so I do want to go first. Just going through some of the normal start of the game thing, and we won the coin flip anyway. So we're going to go first, and we start a Smeargle. Not really great in this matchup, but also not too bad. The one retreat is good. Probably better than starting a Ho-Oh. Probably better than starting, well, definitely better than starting Hoopa. So, and my opponent starts Regice and Oddish, which is unfortunate. I was really hoping to maybe avoid the Regice for a little while. Or at least if they start something. I mean, I don't think we saw a Floatstone out of them, so, I mean, it's possible that they would have to AZ out of an Oddish or use an energy to retreat out of an Oddish. But that's not what we see. And a VS Seeker, not helpful. An AZ, not that helpful, so I just decided to opt to take nothing. We're going to attach to Manectric EX and see if we can get ourselves in a good position for a M-Manectric next turn. We do get a Spirit Link, which is nice. We get an Ultra Ball. We got the Zapdos as well, which is pretty big against this Regice. We're going to go for the Trainer's Mail, I believe. And I don't think I have really checked my prizes yet. I don't think I've had a chance. So, grab the Ultra Ball. I think just because, if for no other reason, just because it's another item out of the deck. And I'm expecting item lock turn 1. We throw down the Zapdos. We can Ultra Ball here. If we want, we can go kind of aggressive. So we're going to get rid of those supporters. We're probably going to grab one back anyway with VS Seeker. Opting to go for the Mega Manectric because if I don't get it, I'm in a bad spot. And at least this way I can say, okay, I can say to my opponent, okay, I have a Mega Manectric in hand. I can evolve it. I'm going to be able to VS Seeker for that Sycamore right now. And I have a chance of getting out this Mega Manectric. And then the Mega Manectric with the Zapdos on the bench will also help me start to power that up. If we can keep the Smeargle in play, kind of nice too, because then we can manipulate the energies so that Zapdos can get the right energy costs. So, not really the most aggressive start for me, but I think it's, you know, and that's what I'm conveying to my opponent here. Not sure if I went hard enough. I don't know if that's the right option. I mean, unfortunately, because there's all those AZs, it's a little tougher to play the Lysander on the Vilpume game that we would normally like to play. And it seems like my opponent just opted to go for like AZs as opposed to Float Stones, which is a really interesting option. Hoping to not see an energy go on to the Regice this turn. That would be really big if we don't see the energy, especially if it's a double colorless. If we don't see a double colorless go onto there, I'm going to feel a lot better about this. We see a level ball, probably for a Gloom. Yep. Also interesting to note that my opponent doesn't seem to be playing Unknown. So we see a Trainer's Mail. Grabbing the Revitalizer. I'm not sure if they actually need the Revitalizer. I don't think they need the Revitalizer. Maybe it's just to thin out of their deck because they're going to play Sycamore or something like that. See a Trainer's Mail for a Fan Club. So maybe they'll Fan Club this turn? The Fan Club is really interesting. I'm not 100% sure what the huge value of that is. We see an Ultra Ball. I guess you could grab like an Oddish and a Shaman or whatever your other attacker is and a Shaman. We see an N, which my opponent was sort of forced to end because of the Mega Manectric that I had in hand. That was what I was worried about, actually, honestly, when I decided. It's like, I could have gone harder and just got more energy on the field. So my opponent gets the Vilpume, and they attach a Lightning to Regice, which is really nice. I know I'm not going to be able to attack this turn, so attaching to Zapdos might be the better option. And just waiting for the Smeargle to get knocked out, and then my opponent basically gets to choose: do you want to get hit by Zapdos, or anyway, it just kind of puts my opponent in an awkward position. I think hoping to get the Mega Manectric there so we could end our turn with the Mega Evolution, or even not end our turn, but just get the Mega Evolution. We miss it. We could dig a little deeper with Shaman, opting not to because Lysander targets are not. It would be bad to have a bunch of Lysander targets on the field. They get the water energy. They could go for an Ice Beam. And they do go for the Ice Beam. And we'll see if they hit heads. They hit heads. So, man, I don't know if they've missed an Ice Beam yet. So I make kind of a snarky comment about, it'd be nice if you stop hitting those heads on the Ice Beam. But, it's all in good fun. I mean, this isn't a very consequential Ice Beam hit anyway. Nice to have the Zerosik in hand, but not sure if it's going to be super helpful. Also, Lysander in hand is helpful. I don't know if it's worth doing anything else this turn, though. might just want to get that Smeargle knocked out. Then I'll have a chance to go for the Raging Thunder next turn. Or if nothing else, I could still hit it with the Drill Peck. So, and just slowly chip away at it. We see a Rainbow Energy onto the active Regice. Kind of nice to just get more damage on it, even though the Raging Thunder will do a knockout. If I have to go some other route, or if I have to hit it on the bench or something weird like that, nice to know that he's got a little more damage on him. We see another Shaman set up for 2. And we see a Lysander onto Zapdos, which is pretty much the last thing I wanted to see. Don't want you if Zapdos gets knocked out, I really have almost no answer to anything. We see a Lightning Energy, which is exactly what I needed. I needed the Lightning Energy so that I could get the knockout on this Regice. I'm trying to figure out what the right move here is, but I think it's pretty obvious. Raging Thunder for the knockout is the only thing I can do. It would put me ahead by a huge amount. I could get knocked out by Miltank, but I'm not really concerned about the Miltank, because at least I can, if I get a M-Manectric out, then I can knock it out in one hit. And we have no other attackers on the field for my opponent right now. Plus the M-Manectric will be able to counter the Jolteon. So I'm just kind of hoping at this point my opponent doesn't play a ton of, or like multiple Regice, or can't get into a Regice powered up quickly. We see the Powerful Friends for the knockout, which pretty much was expected. And now I can Assault Laser. I can also get rid of the energy on the Miltank, just forcing my opponent to, if nothing else, attach to the Miltank so they can't power something else up. And I think that's the best thing to do here. And if they whiff the energy on the Miltank, then they won't even get the attack off. So we're just going to Assault Laser for 60. And now, what's my opponent going to do? Puts down a Jolteon and a double colorless on the Jolteon. And also a Glaceon. So, could get ourselves in one of those weird situations. Okay, so kind of good to note there's 2 AZs gone. Put my opponent in that weird situation where, put me in that weird situation where they switch between Jolteon and Glaceon, and I have to keep switching my attackers as well. Nice thing is that I do have some free retreat with the... so I'm just kind of doing some math here. But I have free retreat with the M-Manectric. So it looks like I'm probably going to need to take the knockouts on... Or I'm going to need to keep a M-Manectric and a regular M-Manectric out so I can just keep going between the two if necessary. The question here is who to Lysander, and it's another one of those tough decisions. I know my opponent still has at least 1 AZ left, so getting the Vilpume feels a little risky. We will be able to set up with Shaman if we want to draw some more cards, but the Lysander would be the best play first. Again, it's like I can take a knockout on a Shaman. There are 2 Shamans, but the uneven prize trade right now. I could also go for what I think I'm going to do here is just go for the overrun and knock out the Miltank on the bench and slowly do damage to the Vilpume. Because knocking out the Vilpume right away doesn't help me all that much. Because then my opponent uses items, and also if it's stuck in the active, then I won't get attacked by Jolteon. And really just stalling my opponent is really big here because I need to be able to draw into M-Manectric sooner or later. And Smeargle might come in handy more than expected. So we see a double colorless going on to the Glaceon, which is probably a little better. It's probably a kind of a nice thing. I mean, it does give my opponent the options, but it means that they probably don't have the Lightning Energy in hand. So we're just going to take the knockout on the Miltank. Could have played the end, but my opponent doesn't seem to have really what they need right now. And we get a Ho-Oh out of the prizes. Not too helpful, probably. Might be later on, though. but the Ho would be weak to the Glaceon, so that's kind of scary. Draw a Hoopa. Doesn't seem too helpful. I think the best idea now is just to slowly start attacking other stuff. Since the Rough Seas isn't down, I can start hitting other Pokemon, and we'll see what happens. But just going for the overrun onto Shaman. I think the big question is whether or not they have an AZ that they can get before I start getting stuff powered up and going. We see a Lysander on a Smeargle. I might be forced to end here to be able to retreat out of the Smeargle. I pass. We draw via Seeker. I think that continuing the attack is pretty important. I do have the upper hand on the deck out situation, but you see I'm counting the cards, but I do have the upper hand on the deck out situation, so I'm not so much concerned about that. But again, I have to assume that they have another AZ left. I mean, I know that they have an AZ, but I have to assume it's not prized. And I miss the energy. The other nice thing about playing N here is that I draw 4 and they draw 5. So it does actually kind of help the deck out situation in a sense. Draw the Ho. AZ will allow us to get out of the Smeargle next turn. And continue the overrun that we've been doing. We see a Manaphy, which we didn't see before. The Manaphy is going to complicate things even more. Now all I need is a water energy to retreat out of the Vilpume, so, or a rainbow energy, either way. So now I kind of wish I could knock out that Vilpume, but I can only do 60 as is, unless I can get a M-Manectric this turn. So I mean, again, I can put Shaman down, but it just seems like it's making it too easy for my opponent. If I keep targeting the same Shaman, then they can play the AZ on a Shaman and then also retreat the Vilpume with an energy. So I decided to spread the damage a little bit more. Now I will be able to take a knockout next turn with Assault Laser, if I so please. And even though my opponent would be able to play items, I probably need the items more than my opponent. The question is whether or not they will be able to get a Vilpume back out in play if I knock it out this turn. Just contemplating the options. Could dig deeper with the Shaman. I mean, if I can get a M-Manectric, it'd be kind of nice to add down a Ho, because it hits harder than a Manectric. But we're just gonna actually do an overrun here, banking on the fact that my opponent doesn't have a water energy or a AZ, and if that's the case, then we'll be able to take a knockout on the Vilpume on the bench anyway, maybe. Opting to, I draw into Lightning Energy. Opting not to play it down right now. Again, I do need to kind of keep the whole deck out situation in mind, just in case my opponent doesn't have the AZ, or isn't able to get access to AZ. And they pass, so I'm in that weird situation again where it's like, do I want to knock out the Vilpume or do I not? So I decided to pass because I'm hoping my opponent doesn't have an out, but I don't know if that's the best option just because the water energy would allow them to retreat. I'm just going to pass again. We're going to see what happens here. I mean, I'm looking for the M-Manectric as well, so I don't really want to have the chance of getting hit by a Flash Ray without a Rough Seas or a M-Manectric at my disposal. Hex Maniac would also be really helpful right now. Via Seeker. Just going to pass. The fact that my opponent is passing so quickly now makes me feel a little bit more confident, though. I don't think that I think that means they're not contemplating any sort of tricky move, and we draw the M-Manectric, so now obviously going to Mega Evolve, and probably put down the energy now. I can put down a Ho if I want to, and once I start Turbo Bolting, I think this game goes in my favor more. Just trying to figure out who do I want to start attacking with. I can do this way when I Turbo Bolt. Not only do we take the knockout, but all my Pokemon on the field are going to be able to attack or retreat. And take a prize down to 3 prizes. We draw the Hex Maniac off of the prizes, which is huge. So my opponent could Flash Ray. I think they're just bringing it up because it's got free retreat. But even if they attack with Glaceon, we'll be able to attack with a Manectric. We see a Revitalizer, so my opponent most likely is going to be able to get out another Vilpume. Oddish Gloom. And double colorless. Okay, so I'm not going to be attacked by the Jolteon this turn, or the Glaceon, and they do get the Vilpume. And we're just going to get hit by a Sky Return, which is really no big deal at all. Question is, who do they send up? We can take a knockout on most things, or at least it puts them in an awkward situation, putting almost anything up. I can't knock out the Manaphy, but the Hex Maniac is something I'm definitely going to be helpful here. So I decided to bench the Ho because we can Turbo Bolt onto it. I could Hex Maniac here. Don't know if I need to. Just don't really think I need to right now. But if I do get, if something gets Lysandered up that I don't want to be in the active, we could play Hex Maniac and switch. But now if my opponent can't get out of the Vilpume here, I think that we're in a fantastic position, because then we can Hex, get a Lysander, and we can Lysander up something for the win after we knock out the Vilpume here. So I think we're in a really, really safe position here. Deciding to Hex now, because then I can grab the Lysander, and I can also grab back another supporter, like maybe a Hex. Or Zerosic could be good. So definitely grabbing the Lysander. Question is, how many items to play this turn? Do I play them all down, or opting for the Zerosic? Makes sense. Everything's got special energy on the field right now. And there's a Rough Seas. Do I play the Rough Seas? Yeah, I think so. No reason not to, really. They can heal the Glaceon, so that could be reason not to, but just opting to Turbo Bolt. Have a Grass Energy I can attach somewhere. We'll attach to Ho just in case we get in that situation where we need to retreat out of it. We get the Mega Manectric off the prizes, which is actually possibly useful. Not sure if my opponent is saying... I guess they're not... My opponent's not... I guess is not quitting out. But I do have the game next turn unless they play an N. Or pick up the Shaman. See a Revitalizer. They might get a Vilpume out here. Not sure if it's going to really matter, though. If they just attack with Flash Ray, which is most likely the case. Oh, we do see an N. So that's unfortunate. We did have the game next turn. We might still be able to draw into the Lysander. If nothing else, we can use Mega Manectric to attack. We draw into nothing useful, really. good thing is they can't knock us out anytime soon. We draw Rough Seas. I think this might be the time to play it, because 2 Turbo Bolts takes the knockout anyway. But then they will be able to retreat out of the Jolteon, and so they can just keep healing stuff. It's nice that they don't have any water energy down, though. And then we're just going to go for a Turbo Bolt. The nice thing is, with the Rough Seas, though, we can do the same thing where we just keep retreating and healing and retreating and healing and then repowering stuff up with the Turbo Bolt. So, even though they do get to heal here, my opponent doesn't have a lot of options. They retreat into the Glaceon. They do get the energy. They will be able to attack, and then we can hit with an Elemental Feather for the win. So, I don't know if that was an oversight or if they just were conceding, basically. But we can hit them with the... I'm just checking to make sure, like, can I do this? But yeah. So we did pull off a win in game 2, so that's a good comeback there. Getting that early Zapdos was huge. I mean, you can see why there's the inclusion of the Zapdos, because in a matchup like this where I would basically have no other outs, I am able to make a comeback with the Zapdos, or at least just have a fighting chance. Especially since it didn't seem like my opponent had another Regice. And maybe that's why they play the fan club, just so they can get into those Pokemon that they would have to dig for otherwise, if it's really a 1-of. Or maybe even a 2-of. So we're going to head into game 3 here. It's all tied up 1-1. And I think this is a really interesting matchup, though, because there's a lot of strategy trying to decide, okay, do we retreat back? Do I attack into this guy? What is the right route to take? And the starting hand is, I don't know, it could be good. It's nice to have the Zapdos. I mean, it's nice to start the M-Manectric and have the Zapdos at least. And the Hoopa will allow us, if we want to draw deeper into the deck. Opponent mulligans, which is nice. And it's also good to note that there were the 2 Revitalizers there. I haven't really been keeping track of how many there are, but they play at least 2 now. We know that. And we would like to draw our mulligan. It's another energy, which nothing too exciting. They start the Regice and Oddish again. So my opponent is really consistent at starting the Regice. If they only play 1-of, I'm amazed that that's how often they get it. Benching the Manaphy is kind of interesting because it is a fairly easy knockout for me. So it's kind of nice for it to be hitting the field this early, honestly. They get the Gloom. They go for a Trainer's Mail. And what are they going to grab from that Trainer's Mail? An AZ. Okay. Anything else? A Level Ball. Okay. Like I said, them not playing Unknown, though, means that the Level Ball is almost useless at this point, and then, yeah, they fail Search. And with Pass, this is huge. They didn't get the Vilpume out this turn, and that means I have items, even though I'm going second. Where do I attach to first? I kind of might want to attach to the Zapdos. Or I could attach to the M-Manectric or the Zapdos, but if I attach to the Zapdos and get the switch off, I can knock out the Regice this turn. And that's what I'm trying to decide between. Do I want to go for the knockout on the Regice using Switch or an AZ? And I think that's the better option. If I get the knockout on the Regice, and if it's their only one, then it's just so huge. So we're going to go for the Hoopa. Could put down the Ho-Oh, but not particularly useful right now. I mean, just better to just see what's in my deck first. Finally do a little deck check. At least just look and see what Pokemon I have. And all right, so we're going to be able to fill up our bench. My opponent's, I guess, surprised to see that I have Hoopa. Yeah, but I mean, obviously I didn't want to bench the Hoopa earlier because it's just a Lysander target. So, now we have an Ultra Ball and a Sycamore. The Sycamore is good. Ultra Ball is fine, I suppose. And now I actually do a deck check, I think, which is probably a good thing. So we see we've got all of our Pokemon, I think. Spirit Links. We've got the VS Seekers. Hex is big. There is the switch in the deck. Lysander's in the deck. Zoroark, AZ. So most of the important stuff is all there. And there's one N, I think. So we don't take anything, of course. And we're just going to Sycamore. So now we are really hoping to get that switch and 2 Max Elixirs. That would be just an insane turn 1. But again, it's the kind of thing that does happen with this deck. And it looks like we're not going to be able to pull it off this turn, but getting ourselves in a good position. Grabbing the Spirit Link. We get the Fighting Fairy Belt, throwing that on Ho-Oh. And might as well grab a Max Elixir. Could grab the AZ. Maybe the AZ is better. Just because we don't have energy. Or we don't have enough energy to attack with anything next turn. So, but maybe it'd be better to get the Zapdos powered up if we could hit the Max Elixir. We did discard a lot of energy already, though. Apparently, I'm not able to make decisions. So, opting for the Max Elixir. We're going to play it. Could play the Battle Compressor first. But I think that the Ultra Ball is going to be important. We get a Fire Energy, which is okay, I suppose. Would have liked to see a Lightning. And where to put the Fire Energy? Probably won't be attacking with Zapdos next turn, so yeah, I don't know. We'll touch the Zapdos anyway. If something gets Lysandered up, we're probably just going to lose it anyway. Get rid of that Spirit Link because it's not all that helpful. We're going to grab the M-Manectric. And at least that way we'll be able to retreat next turn into something else. But even though we did play a lot of cards down, I'm actually not in that not that great of a position. I've got a lot of Lysander targets, and my opponent ends me, which I have to imagine that they felt like they needed to get the Vilpume or something like that, because now I'm in a fantastic position. We're able to, we got the energy, another energy, we have an N, Zoroark, VS Seekers, if they don't get the Vilpume down, grabs a Sycamore, and we went from a pretty dismal looking hand to, I mean, they do get the Resistance Blizzard off, but no Vilpume again, which is huge. I mean, I can't even stress how big of a deal that is. I can switch into the Zapdos and then try and get the knockout this turn. All we'd need is a Lightning Energy off of our N, or whatever we end up playing. I think that's the best option, honestly. We could also get rid of the DCE or something like that, but checking to see what supporters we have. We have a Sycamore. We could just go kind of hard and Sycamore, so we could switch and then Sycamore. And I think about playing Zoroark. I'm obviously pretty split on what to do here. Do I attach energy? Do I just switch? Do I just play N? And ended up just deciding to play N. So now if I can get a M-Manectric and a Lightning Energy, we're good. Or we can attack with we can Turbo Bolt this turn now. Now we won't do damage to the Regice, but using Turbo Bolt is pretty good anyway. Especially since I have Battle Compressor, I can get rid of the energy types we want. But now I have the Trainer's Mail, it might be more important. So we're going to grab M-Manectric. The Trainer's Mail is actually pretty big here. We will go for the Mega Turbo, grabbing a Lightning. And we will attach, well, we might as well Trainer's Mail first, see what we get. Max Elixir, that could allow us to take the knockout this turn. And so that would be huge if we took the knockout this turn. And we get a water, so not not that great. Where to attach to? Probably good to attach it to either the Ho or the Hoopa. So go to the Ho-Oh. Attach to the active Turbo Bolt. And we've got plenty of energy in the discard. So actually going to power up the Zapdos, because otherwise we're never really going to be able to deal with this Regice. So a Lysander on like the Hoopa would be a pain since I have no cards in hand. I've been kind of playing this whole game on the edge, kind of like risking a lot. But I mean, while I have the item cards, I'm going to try and play through as many of them as I can, even if that means thinning my hand down to nothing. At least I'm playing the items and I'm getting energy on the field. So we see an Ultra Ball. That's 2 ends in the discard pile. They grab a Vilpume, so which is what we'd expect. So they will finally get the item lock off. But Lightning onto, okay, all right. So pretty good turn out of my opponent. Gets the Lightning onto the Miltank, and a Sycamore plays on the Force Giant Plant, so I can't heal anymore. And what are we going to see next here? I mean, obviously, Resistance Blizzard makes the most sense. And I mean, after Zapdos attacks, it won't be knocked out by a Miltank, so Zapdos could take multiple prizes. The Zapdos can also knock out the Manaphy EX, so that's nice. So basically anything my opponent sends up can get knocked out. Well, I mean, the Vilpume can't, but wouldn't mind if they did that. Kind of a weird thing is that the 2 fire energy are both on Zapdos right now, so I can't, with the Raging Thunder, I can't hit the Ho-Oh and heal it. So it actually retreats into the Miltank, which is probably a pretty good option for my opponent, but I will be able to get the Jurassic and get rid of that DCE on the Regice. And now it just seems like the best option would just be to Turbo. Well, yeah, Turbo Bolt will take a knockout, so might as well just Turbo Bolt. Get another energy on the field. Because if I go for Raging Thunder, okay, so I guess I'm opting to go for Raging Thunder. Not too bad either. Still take the knockout, but doing damage to the Ho-Oh. See what we get. We get a Skyloft, the prizes. Pretty good. Nice to get a supporter. Better than an item. My opponent can't knock me out this turn, though, which is nice. We see a Lysander on that Zapdos. So now I automatically check, do I have AZ at my disposal? Since he can't knock me out in 2 turns, I can Skyloft for an AZ, then play AZ. We see a setup, drawing 2. So my opponent didn't attach a double colorless, so that means that all they can do is the Ice Beam, and hey, yay, they finally miss on the Ice Beam. And we get an energy, so nice to get the energy too. And the nice thing about the energy is by getting the energy, I'm eyeing a Rough Seas, which doesn't make sense. Yeah, AZ, that makes more sense. The nice thing about the energy is I can attach it to the Hoopa, and then that way if they try to if they end me to get rid of my AZ, then all I need is an energy to retreat. Again, I'm not 100%. I think that they have at least 3 N, so they should have another N at their disposal if they can get to it. But you can see my opponent's in a tough spot here, because the other nice thing with the energy is that when I AZ, if I pick up the energy, or if I pick up the Hoopa, then the energy just goes in the discard pile and I can Turbo Bolt it back on. So the downside of the AZ is mitigated because I don't mind having energy in my discard pile. I'm not sure what my opponent's trying to... Okay, so another Lysander, which onto the Zapdos? Maybe trying to Ice Beam the Zapdos? Yeah, okay. And they hit heads. No. No, why? Okay, so they hit a heads. Man, well, it would be a problem, but I could AZ the Zapdos and then attack with M-Manectric. Because he didn't use Resistance Blizzard. Instead, I opted to just pass. I'm not sure if that was the best option. I could have just AZ'd and then used Turbo Bolt and then put the energy back on. Put 2 energy back on the Zapdos. But I guess I'm just risking it. My opponent misses on this Ice Beam finally, so pretty big. Drawing into the Hex Maniac's nice. Now, my opponent will be able to, if they can get a Flash Ray eventually, they will be able to knock out the Zapdos, but won't happen this next turn. And Swift only does 30. We're going to pick up that Hoopa just because I don't like it sitting there. And we're going to go for the Raging Thunder. We're going to hit the Manectric with no energy on it. This way, if we get a Rough Seas, we can heal a bunch of damage. We can heal the Zapdos, heal the Manectrics, and the Fire Energy to the Ho-Oh eventually would be able to heal that as well. And it's nice to see, though, that my opponent is just kind of having fun with this. It's, I mean, it's a close match, but, and, I mean, obviously they needed to get some flips there, but, just nice to see them really having fun with the game. We see the AZ picking up the Vilpume. So maybe they have some items they want to play. Presumably they have items they want to play. Rainbow to the active, so they can use Swift. If they don't play an item, I'm not sure why they played the AZ though. Okay, yeah, so they play an Ultra Ball. Getting rid of Vitalizer and something else. We see a lot of energy in the discard, which is encouraging. Only one double colorless. And most likely they play 4. But the rainbows, basic energies, good to see that stuff in the discard. And 2 Lysander, I mean, I can't really predict my opponent at this point, but I would hope that they probably don't have more than 2 Lysander. But that's why I picked up that Hoopa anyway, just in case. So all they really did with that was get a Shaman. Not sure if that was worth the AZ or not. I mean, they're probably trying to draw into a double colorless energy for next turn. So now having 2 Jolteon down, they can retreat between the 2. So the Rough Seas option isn't as good anymore. And he's going to retreat after all. It doesn't make too much sense to let that Jolteon get knocked out. Or, I mean, get attacked. And we're deciding now that retreating into... I could retreat into M-Manectric. The main reason I don't want to just keep attacking with Zapdos right now is because the Zapdos is just doing damage to my bench over and over. And without any way of healing it, it's not all that helpful, honestly. The Smeargle could be of use, especially with those fire energies. See a Turbo Volt here out of myself, and going to power up the Ho-Oh. Because now I know my opponent, I mean, if my opponent doesn't get Flash Rays off, Ho-Oh could start sweeping. Because Ho-Oh can knock out almost anything on my opponent's board. See a Lightning Energy? So that's good. We won't be seeing a Flash Ray this turn. And just getting up prizes as quick as I can on this deck is going to be helpful. They retreat into a Shaman. So they're just saying, fine, take the prizes, I guess. And I'm going to be able to Purifying Fire here. So I heal off all that damage from that Raging Thunder. And I could Turbo Volt. I could actually retreat into Ho-Oh and attack. I think there's a Grass in my discard, but just opting to go for the Turbo Volt. Putting the energies onto Ho-Oh. And now I can attack with Ho-Oh and heal and all that stuff. I can retreat and still be able to attack later. We have energy in hand, so if they Lysandre something, we're okay. My opponent plays a Sycamore, so they're obviously desperately looking for energy. Can he hit the energy? Retreating into Miltank. And we have a Hex Maniac, which is also really big. Opponent says, this has been fun. Good comeback. So. And yeah, I mean, my opponent did do a really good job with this deck. I mean, it can lock down so much stuff, and I think it's just goes to show, I mean, if you don't have healing or a way around Lysandre or a way around Jolteon or all these different things, I mean, what do you do? My opponent notes that, yeah, I mean, having the Megas and the Fury Belt were really big. And, but really, I think the Zapdos was really a key player in this whole thing as well. It goes Zapdos. My opponent's like, Zapdos is an awesome card, which is funny because it's like, it really was one of those last minute things, and I don't know if Zapdos itself is really a great card per se, but so now I hit the Jolteon with the 10 damage. So now no matter what they bring up, they can get knocked out by something from me. So, nice to see though that the Zapdos is getting some love. Opponent comes up and plays an AZ, picking up the damaged Jolteon. which makes sense. Retreats back into it. And let's see what I got here. Top deck and energy. They didn't flash ray though, so we can still just attack. Put an energy onto Shaman just to avoid the Lysander. And we're going to Elemental Feather again, and now they really can't retreat into anything. There's just no option here. I think my opponent is... I mean, they can retreat and then Flash Ray, but then they get knocked out by a Turbo Bolt. So, looks like this one's been secured, and my opponent just goes for the Sycamore for the deck out. Kind of that universal sign of, I concede, retreats into Vilpume, and I said, nope, you're not going to deck out. In fact, I'm going to heal off all that damage I did to myself. And go for the Elemental Feather, knocking out the Vilpume, knocking out the Jolteon, taking 8 prizes, and another comeback with the Ho-Oh M-Manectric deck. So, hope you guys enjoyed that. That was round 2, so we're 2-0 in the tournament, and hopefully we'll continue that trend. Maybe have some shorter games. This one was super long. Apologize for that, but I think it was a really interesting match, and I hope that you enjoyed it. See you next time on the Pokebeach YouTube channel.